Hello, and welcome to Locutors of Trek, the podcast where we talk about the people, places, and things of Star Trek. So, replicate yourself a Romulan ale or your synth selection of choice, and join us far beyond the stars.
Locutors of Trek.
Program initiated. Enter when ready.
Tragedy, as we've said in another place, comes from the songs of goat herds mournfully echoed across the hills. Songs about loss and sadness, often death. Well, this week we're throwing all of that overboard, out with the bathwater and the baby, and we're going to talk about things that make us laugh. Comedy, the opposite, where people might get squished by an anvil, but they rarely die.
Much like a box in the cargo bay.
Exactly. Look out for your spines. Yeah, we're going to take a whimsical tour of witticism and try and cake on as much comedy as we can.
That's what we do here.
And
You mentioned death. Speaking of which, contrary to rumors, we are not dead.
No, those rumors have been greatly exaggerated.
Exactly. We're here to prove that fact right now.
Indeed.
We're here to talk about comedy, one of my favorite parts about Star Trek myself.
You're kidding me.
Yeah, me, myself, I think that.
But before we go any further,
Yes.
hi, I'm Dave.
Oh, wow, yeah. We didn't even get to that. So, I'm Davan.
We are the Locutors of Trek.
And plain, simple Tailors. A day job. So we've come with some lists. Not a regular top five. I mean, mine's got a lot more. Mine have a lot more than five each. But I'm also trying to avoid crossover with you, so I have some extras. But to structure this comedy episode, we have in mind we'll discuss the funniest characters, funniest scenes or lines that we think of in Star Trek, and we'll discuss the funniest episodes in general. And at the end of the show, we'll review. What are we going to review, Dave?
We are going to take a look at an excellent issue of the Star Trek series. It's actually a one-shot Star Trek Ferengi entitled "The Future Is Female." We're going to take a look at that. Writer Christina Wright, artist Andy anchor Mariah Keene, or Maria Keene, perhaps. Colorist Charlie Kirkhoff, letterist Neil Uyatake. So we're going to take a look.
No
at that.
spoilers, but quick thoughts. I enjoyed that issue. So stay tuned.
I thought it was great fun. Hit some of my favorite Ferengi highlights, honestly.
There we go.
Mention as we go.
So we'll do our spoiler review later. So
that's right.
You don't want to know what happens until you've read it yourself. Skip the end of the show. But until then, stick with this.
That's right.
So do we? Where we could start this off, Dave. I think the closest we've come discussing this topic in Star Trek before is perhaps in one of our debate nines. Check those out if you haven't. Debate nines are good fun. The craziest debate 9 game in the galaxy, I think.
It's not linear.
No. But because we had Mr. Scott, I believe it was, had a you and I debate, which is better, funny Trek or horny Trek.
Oh, right.
And you had a debate for horny Trek, and I had funny Trek. And one of your attacks on me, though I don't know that it's necessarily an attack, but it was used as one in this debate style game where we just throw everything at each other, whether it's like bad or not. We're like, well, what about this? It's just like, yes, that's not bad from my point at all. It's
True. Well, beware the classic Swift verbal uppercut.
Yeah, well, that too. But you made it clear that you thought the main form of comedy in Star Trek may be irony. Would you like to talk about that a little bit before we get into these?
Well, I think there's particularly relative to, our main series cast often enough. I think that Star Trek approaches its comedy in a way that actually has a pretty particular voice, because when one of the characters is in a funny scene, it usually is going one of two ways. Either there's sort of a funny, witty social situation going on, or there's something almost ridiculous and slapstick. Kirk covered by tribbles, or Spock making a witty comment, riffing on one of McCoy's jabs at him, right? And so, what I really see in that approach to comedy is an interest in maintaining the dignity and the air of competence of these characters, even when it's apparently being subverted, like Kirk covered in tribbles, right? That's just a ridiculous thing. He's just covered in furry things and they coo and they're funny, right? Like
So it's ironic because they're also competent. Like they're
exactly
competent
right?
characters, and like they still end up in these situations where it's like, how did such competent people end up in these situations? And
precisely right, and we get to enjoy watching them try and muddle through this. There's some comedy of awkwardness stuff that works that way too, especially when in a Starship Mine, when Data and what's his name, Huck or whatever his name is, are trying to make small talk at each other more and more.
Oh, Hutch, call me Hutch.
Hutch, call me Hutch. That's right. Or the earlier bit where he tries to make small talk with Picard in the turbo lift. Those things are moments where it's actually quite endearing to see Data not be competent, because it highlights his actual character struggle, right? Like, this is one of the small foibles in his increasing mastery of sort of the domain of being human in the way that he understands it. So I think like that for me kind of frames how Star Trek does humor, because they don't want to just, except for some pieces of Lower Decks where they are just literally going for a punch.
Well, it's a different kind of show. It's a comedy show. Right? So it shows up on a lot of my lists just because it is inherently hilarious.
Sure.
But I tried to like tone it down. Like you could just pick Lower Decks for everything because it is
They got some great lines, right?
Yeah. I got it in.
So I guess for me, there's now Star Trek has two comedic voices. It has its classic drama series version of comedy, and then it's got like the Lower Decks voice, which is, but also Prodigy takes in.
I really like Prodigy.
Condition between those two things, it's got some characters who have some really interesting deep flaws, but the comedy and their own behavior tends to show them taking opportunities to grow and develop.
Yeah, I see Prodigy as kind of more child-oriented, targeted take on the classic style, the classic. It felt very kind of classic Star Trek once again.
In some ways, yeah, absolutely. Right. We get to explore a starship like they get to explore the galaxy, certainly, right? Because we like they don't really know how anything on that ship actually works.
Well, the vastness of the galaxy and the final frontier and the size and the unexplored nature of the galaxy lends itself to that style of comedy. No matter how competent you are, there can be something that trip you up because you've never seen it.
Yeah, precisely, right? I mean, there are a couple of places where I feel like
aliens, for that matter.
Yeah,
because they can be so different than humans. Like,
sure.
I didn't think to add really a lot to my lists here, but like a lot of the guest characters, guest aliens, are hilarious.
Oh yeah, many of them are quite funny. Now, I mean, I think there's one notable example where the comedy that Star Trek goes for actually seeks to undermine and oddly satirize the character it's aimed at, which is Trip Tucker. Like the pregnancy episode and all of these episodes where like Trip's done something again. He done get himself all in a mud puddle, Like there is a way in which Trip becomes the butt of a lot of
he became the Dagwood of that.
Exactly. Like, oh, now my arm's gone invisible. And then they promptly never use that arm in the episode again, which we've already commented on that in other places, I'm sure. Somewhere along.
So, as far as our lists go, do we want to like start out and zoom in, or start close and zoom out? Like, because we have episodes, we have characters, and we have.
Let's start with characters because they're going to take us more places, and we'll get more specific as we go on.
All right, and it's my shortest list, I think. Yes,
Right.
it is. All right, so we could. We'll I suppose we could just do this in top 5 style, our classic
Sure.
style, and see how it goes.
We'll just give ourselves to discuss.
Why don't you kick us off?
All right. Well, my number 5 funniest person in Star Trek is Grand Negus Zek.
Where's my beetle snap?
It's not
I'm
so
a fan.
good for the Beatles. Yeah, I've loved that actor since I saw him in The Princess Bride. He is an absolute delight. I love his voice, his mannerisms, his physicality. The utter lecherous grossness of Zek is like everything works for comedic purpose.
Until he changes. Like there's 2 Zeks we see. Then he gets kind of liberalized by Moogie.
That's true.
Modernized, you could say. With,
somewhat reluctantly at first, but he seems to be pretty on board by the end, you know.
Mm-hmm. But I was saying to Dave earlier,
funny the whole time, you know.
Where we have crossover on our list here, we'll just talk about it, so we're not all over the place like a timey-wimey episode. So one of his scenes actually shows up on one of my lists.
Oh yeah,
and that's the one where Quark first finds out he has dementia. Oh, well, you know what? It was actually the entire episode, Family Business, that I have on one of my lists here. But
now is that the episode where Brunt keeps showing up in the closet?
Yeah.
Oh my god, I love that. It's one of my favorite visual gags in all of Star Trek.
And that's the one where Quark starts working for him. Yeah, and it's the scene where he first finds out that Zek has kind of dementia or something going on, right? Because Zek is so hilarious. I think that's Zek's funniest scene because he's just like, all right, let's go through the day's business. And Quark's just like, all right, well, there's a guy who wants to, or Damon, whatever, wants to know about uranium stocks or whatever. What he should do. And he's just like, oh, well, let's look at uranium stocks. And he's just like, numbers. He's just like, well, that's this, and he does his math wrong, and he's just like, well, who cares about uranium anyway? He's just like, well, Damon, whoever. He's just like, who? Do I like him? It's such a funny scene.
You're
confusing me.
His comedic timing is absolutely beautiful. I mean, it's sort of there is a sort of pain in the scene in that you see this guy who really is. He's a very, very sharp person and knows that he is.
Yeah. But
he's just lost that one step of having insight into who he is just at this moment, you know? It's that's a great scene. Yeah.
Tell us about Zek. What else?
Zek
Wallace Shawn, a legend.
Yeah, I mean, Zek is greedy. Zek is conniving. Zek is brilliant. I think the first time we meet him, he comes to Quark's, doesn't he? To conduct a bunch of business
with the Dozai.
That's
Tula
right.
Berry wine. Tula Berry wine.
And it's a beautiful. It's a lovely episode. The way he's able to sort of draw out the other Ferengi's interest and just sort of work them around the table to his own ends.
That's prime Zek there. That's before.
We really meet him sort of at the height of his powers at that moment, and he kind of. It's a slow decline for several seasons for him.
Just whispers it to Quark. He's like, I get the best thing ever in the world for you, Quark. He's like, oh, what's that? Tula Berry. Quark's just like, I don't even know what that is. I'm a bartender. So.
Oh, man. I think, honestly, the funniest thing about Zek is just he's 150% a Ferengi.
Oh, yeah.
And also knows that being a Ferengi is a crazy thing to be. and he he
But you have to own it for it to work. You just have to go all in. Yeah.
So he's just like exactly. I think he's just always all in at the Dabo table.
Yep.
Yeah, I love Zach. He's so good.
All right. Well, my number 5 funniest characters in Star Trek is Tuvok.
Ooh.
I love Tuvok's dry humor. I think it's underappreciated.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's the funniest character on Voyager. And like almost everything he says is like a wry joke or like a jam.
Oh yeah,
With somebody.
yeah.
Like, he's actually played for comedy a lot, and it's just like people don't notice. I think because it's like he's a Vulcan.
Well, and I think like Tuvok seems very adept at playing that, like playing right along that line that Vulcans walk between admitting that they have emotions and suppress them, or like denying they have emotions at all. He's really good at playing that gray area where he's clearly making like jabs and has emotions and stuff's going on, but he's just so masterfully in control of it that you still can't sort of call him on it. He's brilliant.
I have given further consideration to your riddle regarding the ensign who survived by consuming the dates from his calendar. It occurs to me that he could also have eaten the Sundays.
Yeah, he plays that like quiet arrogance, maybe better than all the other Vulcans.
Mm-hmm.
But he does it for laughs too. Like he knows, like he's almost like what you said about Zek. He's like so aware of like absurdity of Vulcans around humans that he just kind of owns it.
Yeah,
he goes all in, and but for laughs because he's like they're gonna laugh at me when I'm acting real Vulcan, so I might as well just play it for laughs.
Yeah, like humans find Vulcans inherently funny. I think when they just like punch it all out.
You and your logic, hilarious.
Well, that brings me to my number.
But the scene I would highlight for that Tuvok's humor. Just where Neelix, you have to always get the last word, don't you? No, I don't. He's just like he gets his last word. No, I don't have to get the last word, but of course he does. That's classic.
That is pretty great. My number 4 follows along this line a little bit. It's Spock, who I think is honestly hilarious a lot of the time.
Yeah,
but he does it and I think Tuvok's existence and style of comedy depends upon Spock. But the difference, as you say, I think, is that Tuvok, they have had the time to allow him to be like a really Vulcan character, as opposed to
the half kind of
the half Vulcan, half human Spock, right? And there they play the jokes, I think, as appealing to his humans. Like it's a bit where, it's a moment where that humanity bubbles up, because the theme with Spock and Kirk always is, which is better, passion or reason? And
I might suggest a reason, but I guess that's argument for another day. Deep 8-9.
Oh yeah, right. And I think in some ways, on the original series, Kirk always sort of wins.
Yeah,
because it comes down to ultimately to empathy and compassion, right?
Yeah, they play to that theme a lot on that show for sure.
Yeah, and given the time that it's in and the particular social and cultural comments they're trying to make, it makes a lot of sense that that's where they hew to all the time, right? That like our hearts can lead away into a way that our minds may not always allow us to go.
And they kind of do the contrary with, to like almost always correct when he's acting. They'll go against him sometimes and they often pay for it. So
yeah, and I mean, I suppose that it shows a shifting position of like the place where Trek's commenting from. In the original series, it's very much
be human.
Very often, be human, be compassionate is a countercultural, very often anti-war message. And while the anti-war stuff remains fairly strong through the other series, by the time we hit Voyager, there's also this sort of, I don't know what you call it, kind of a neoliberal streak in it, where to hold on to that principle and retain that distance, and given their situation, it really works. But I feel like it evokes some of that period where neoliberalism is sort of dominant ideology and identifies itself with political compassion and political sort of justice themes. Even if that's not where it always gets to.
Give us an example of Spock's funny.
Okay, a great example of Spock's funny is in the episode Errand of Mercy, which is where we meet the Organians, and it's a great episode.
Classic episode.
So the quote, this is Spock to Kirk, at some point, I think already once they're captive. And he turns around and he says, "Curious how often you humans manage to obtain that which you do not want." It's so good. There's this old statement of, I think it's attributed to Mao Zedong, where he says, when he quotes it as an old saying, but he says, there's this old saying that says, sometimes the enemy struggles mightily to lift a rock only to drop it on their own feet. And it feels like this is sort of what Spock's on about here, right? He's like, you really got what you wished for, didn't you, buddy?
His retorts to Bones, like as you mentioned too, are really good. But I might add, you mentioned this, the character Spock, not just Leonard Nimoy. New Strange New World Spock is quite funny. Like I love the I am arming us with knowledge.
That was a really good line.
What are you doing, Spock? Things are about to break down that door and kill us, and you're like reading. He's like, I am arming us with knowledge. That was so slick under fire, but hilarious. But yeah, so Spock is hilarious, and I love the new Spock. I love the old Spock.
Yeah. I just enjoy Spock. Actually, the unification episodes are some pretty hilarious episodes too. He gets some pretty sick burns on Pardek.
Sick burns on old Pardek. That's true, he does actually. But also Picard, he burns Picard pretty good too.
Oh yeah. Isn't that the one where Picard also like seriously calls out that Klingon captain to get the ship? Because like Gowron's not going to talk to you. You can see his like third.
Is that the same episode? Jeez.
I think it might be.
He was just like, tell him his arbiter of succession would like a ship. It's like, I'm totally aware of all the people who hate you and would like to be in your job instead, and I could just go ally with them.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we got a ship for you. Problem.
Yeah. Actually, Picard is one of the characters that actually gets to tell a joke. There's a great episode.
He's not on my list, but he is underrated funny.
But the episode which you quote so well, one long.
He just kept talking in one long, incredibly unbroken sentence, moving from topic to topic so that no one had a chance to interrupt. It was really quite hypnotic.
Oh my God, it's so good. Right?
That is classic. Geez, he should have been on my list. I underrated Picard. He is actually hilarious.
But it's a funny thing that he's one of the.
Did he make your list, or are we just giving him props now?
No. I just occurred to me that.
Yeah. Underrated. You're totally right.
Yeah, man. So you're number 4.
Well, I think we agree. Vulcans are funny.
Yeah.
My number 4. See, I didn't number mine, so I'm just going to pick numbers as I go.
All right.
I'm going to say Shax.
Oh, Shax.
I love Shax. He might be the funniest character in Lower Decks. He doesn't get as many funny lines because he's not in it as much as like Mariner, for example. But everything he says is friggin' hilarious. Shax
he's so intense.
Epic. He's so intense. We do not all agree. Talking about like the finish on the chairs.
Yeah.
And like when he comes back alive, spoilers, but like he comes back alive. Everyone who's listening to this podcast has seen all that anyway.
Probably.
When he comes back alive and he's just like, "You've never fought the like demons on the mountain. You don't want to." Oh man, check. I'm coming, baby bear. But he's also so positive. He's super intense, but he's like super encouraging and stuff too. That, like, like his baby bear quit security. He's just like, you know what? That's great. I support that. Follow your heart, bud. This is like what I was expecting from this super intense, angry Bajoran. Like that's the thing with Shax is he's like they play everything for jokes, but they actually do serious things on that show, like through all the jokes. I love Lower Decks. It's pure genius. Like it's comedic
they have
and
really
storytelling genius.
Characterization going on there, right?
But he's got PTSD from the occupation. So but like untreated and like for the most part, and probably undiagnosed because he's just so angry. People get afraid. He probably just scares the therapists away. So that's his thing. Like he's just dealing with that constantly. So he walks on razor blades and no, not razor blades, but he's yeah. Oh, what's the saying? Anyway,
eggshells.
No, he's not walking on eggshells. He's just like he's all a bundle of nerves.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, some Shacks.
Good old Shacks. Nothing but Shacks.
What's next on yours, baby bear?
Next on mine is the guy who literally tries to give us the definition of comedy and who once on this very podcast was shamefully, perhaps, slandered by one Mr. Scott, none other than the comic Joe Piscopo.
Oh, right. He did slam Joe Piscopo. And I couldn't come up with Joe Piscopo's name, so I looked at the fool. Even though it was like on the edge of my tongue, because it's Joe Piscopo. I knew he was on Saturday Night Live and everything, but
Yeah.
Not the first time Mr. Scott has tried to make me look the fool.
Oh, that's quite true. Yes, not the first time he's successfully done it to me. Yeah, I like Joe Piscopo's entry. I think that was in season 1 or maybe early season 2.
I think it was season 1, but it might have been season 2.
I don't think Riker has the beard yet because he's talking to Minuet without a beard, I think.
And it still plays those chimes constantly through the episode. Like in the first couple of seasons, it's always just like ding ding, ding 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 ding. Ding 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 ding. Man, I was glad when they dropped that. It changed the whole people have that line where they say TNG starts to be good. I think in their minds it actually starts when they drop the chimes.
That's interesting.
It's like this is way more enjoyable now, and I don't know why. That's why the chimes are gone.
That verbal horror, that oral horror.
Yeah, I like chimes, mind you. I mean, like a nice classical presentation or performance.
Wind variety of chime.
Incoming transmission.
What do you mean my battery is running low? I didn't plug that in. Oh, that's why.
Oh, well.
That'll do it.
Turns out the computer was right.
Computer was right. Oh my God, this is a comedy episode. A comedy of errors. There we go. We're plugged in now.
All right. Now we're cooking with gas.
Yeah.
All right. So, number 3.
Joe Piscopo. Interesting. So you like the joke. You like his Jerry Lewis impression.
Yeah, I thought it was a nice kind of like meta thing,
Yep. All right. Works for me. Joe Piscopo. All right. My number 3, I guess it would be. I'm going to go with... Oh, geez, I only got 3 left to choose. Oh, this is tough. Because I have a longer list here. I'll do special mentions later. For number 3, I am going to go with Quark.
Quark. Right on.
Another Ferengi makes the list. Quark's hilarious. I mean, he's played for jokes most of the time. He's great at it. Armin Shimmerman's hilarious.
That's true.
Quark.
One of the greatest guests on Regis and Kathy Lee ever to grace their stage.
That's true. He actually made that show funny. What does that tell you?
Yeah, it's true.
Sick burn.
I also like it the fact that during the pandemic, Armin Shimmerman broke out the Quark teeth again, especially for
that was fun.
Alone Together.
Engage monitor. Cut the Quark's crushes fun. Come right now. Don't look. Run.
I do like the fact
that
that Quark's bars show up in things as well. Like it shows up on Free Cloud, and then you see it in Lower Decks as well. That's pretty. That was
it's horrible about
first Quarks though.
Like I think it's one of the first
at the end of the Dominion War, right?
Yeah, I think it's one of the. Is it one of the first scenes we give us Quark? I don't know, or maybe it's in a later season, but it feels like it should have been one of the first scenes. It's just him negotiating, like Impella's new contract. No, it wasn't even
yes.
Impella. It was somebody else, like a character that didn't come back in the show because I think she quit. For like he's trying to ask her what she knows about Umox and things like that.
Oh, that's right. Yes. He's
Just like everyone says, you're so nice. Like, why can't you be nice to me as well? It's just like he's being such a creep.
Oh, he's such a creep. And he's being a very good Ferengi there in his own way.
And I like, and he's also quite hilarious. Obviously, when he's dealing with Brunt and stuff, and Odo, especially. Yeah. But like, he even does subtle humor quite well, like the root beer scene.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like that's hilarious to me, that scene. But it's just him and Garrick having a small discussion there.
Yeah.
Or like a sort of serious discussion. It's like a philosophical discussion.
Yeah, but very playful, as it always is. With
him. Exactly.
That's one of the things I noted, Garrick is not funny.
He didn't make my list, but he's like the best.
He's
but he is funny.
But he's
it's wit.
He's smart, he's incisive, he's insightful, he's an enigma, but he's very rarely directly funny because I think
but when he's giving warp to gears, he's funny.
Right? Oh, sure. Sure. He's having fun there too. And you can
exactly.
But a lot of the time, even though he's clearly it looks like he's finding everything amusing. He's not a character I think of as like funny,
No, because when he actually is saying something that's like outwardly funny, it's actually just something sinister he's saying.
Oh, it's normally a terrible, scary threat. Yes.
Yes, exactly. So this is like, I could laugh, but that would be disrespectful to the person he's threatening to kill. Like, I don't know if I should laugh about this.
Yeah.
So he didn't make my list, but good point.
Yeah.
Derek is not funny, but is sort of funny. He's witty, and there's a difference.
Yeah. But for a guy who is funny, you just gotta go to Vic's.
Oh wow.
Vic Fontaine, man of the hour.
Love me a Vic.
Most was the most.
Mascot of this show.
Yep. Yeah, exactly, right? The band's going to quit. They can't quit their holograms. They don't know that.
They don't know that. I love that. Another favorite Vic scene for me is when he's just evaluating everybody.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, and you two, forget about it. Forget it.
Yeah, he's just so cool, man.
Yeah, man, he is cool, and he is very.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably his funniest line, though. The one you said that they don't know that.
He's got a lot of good wry kind of one-liners too. Frankie, one eye or two eyes.
Oh, Frankie eyes. Used to beat him at stickball. I don't know. Yeah, no, that's a good pick. Vic Fontaine.
Vic Fontaine.
A good pick for Vic.
Yep.
All right, what do I got here? All right, I'm going to say another Ferengi. Nog.
Oh, yeah.
I find Nog very funny. Is when he's explaining the Great River to Chief.
You see, there are millions upon millions of worlds in the universe. Each one filled with too much of one thing and not enough of another. And the great continuum flows through them all like a mighty river.
It's a good example of the hilarity of Nog.
Oh, yeah.
I love in his shrimp or two grubs on Earth. It is actually. It's like, your father is the only one I know who can get fresh ones.
Honestly,
he's taunting Jake about not having no muscles.
Exactly. I love Nog's like evil "I'm winning" grin that he gets.
Yeah.
This, man.
Oh yeah. He's a little shit, man. It's awesome.
He's so.
He's the best.
And he starts off as exactly just a real delinquent.
But yeah, every version of him is funny though, except when he's in Vic's recuperating from his leg loss.
There's a little bit of comedy in there too, but it's a much more awkward comedy. It's like his own sense of like being out of place ends up making a bit of comedy, and then he actually gets angry about it. I think during that that scene.
When he's complaining about how the Klingons don't listen to him, the Klingons on the station. Then Sisko's like, well, you just got to stand up for yourself and tell them who's boss and what's going on, and they'll either kick the crap out of you or respect you. And then Martok walks in and he's just like, Captain, I'd like to speak to you alone. Nog's just like, that does it. And he's about to stand up and confront Martok, and Sisko's like, no, Nog. Now is not the time. Don't take my advice at this very moment, please.
I do like their relationship too. Sisko and Nog's relationship, actually, with both,
it's really nice.
Particularly with Ben Sisko, honestly.
Mm-hmm,
it becomes a really interesting mentoring and then command sort of relationship. Yeah, it's cool. A Nog for you.
Nog.
Nice.
I'm a Nog fan.
Well, my very tip-top comedic character.
Oh, here, this is exciting. Number one.
That's in all of Star Trek. Is holder of the sacred chalice of reeks, Luoxana Troy.
Madam Ambassador.
Luoxana. Upper pylon 3. I've always wanted to see an upper pylon.
She both now partly this is also just Majel Barrett's voice, because the computer gets some damn funny lines.
That's true. It does.
Like some of its responses, like no, not gonna do that. That doesn't work. Some of those they're great.
Please specify.
Specify parameter.
It just seems extra snooty sometimes. It's like,
the
computer just give me a bit of snark.
Yeah, it's pretty great. And then Luoxana, you always know there's some snark there.
Yeah, exactly. She is funny.
Yeah, she's just she's a whirlwind in humanoid form. She's just and there's nothing happening when she's somewhere other than Luoxana Troy, really.
No one makes flirtation as funny as Luoxana Troy. Because just like, you'd think someone would be into it, because she's an attractive lady, and she's outgoing, and, vibrant personality, but everyone's just immediately like, it just comes on so strong and so intense.
Somewhat forward, yes.
Yeah, at least with the military types. The Starfleet types don't quite know how to take her.
She does seem to like an officer in uniform, that's for sure.
She's got a bad taste in men, though. She picks the guy who is going to kill himself because he's 40.
Mm-hmm.
Then she picks the guy who's just marries her and turns out to be a misogynist.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that guy.
Then she married Odo.
That's true. She also married him.
I mean, Odo's a good guy, but
not really.
Probably not the best husband. A little detached.
Yeah.
Excuse me. All right, so my number one.
Turbo Lift is pretty great.
All right, my number one. This was tough, so quick few special mentions for me.
All right.
Mariner could have made the list.
Sure.
Jadzia could have made the list.
Yeah.
Phlox could have made the list.
Very
O'Brien should have. It was between him and Shax at that position, because I find O'Brien hilarious. But my number one funny character is Worf. I find Worf hilarious. One of the reasons he's one of my favorite characters in the franchise is just hilarious. Like there's serious Worf is hilarious because he's overly serious in a moment where maybe he shouldn't be.
Perhaps we have a poltergeist. Sir? A mischievous spirit. Sir? Perhaps not.
That's true. That's true.
But when he's trying to be funny, he's also hilarious because he does try to be funny sometimes. And
Irritated by Q Worf is also funny. That's
true.
true.
When he's just sitting on the balcony and complaining about how Brian and Bashir are playing with toys, but he's there watching them play with toys. So, isn't that even worse? And then he's getting into it at the same time too. He's just like, well, that'll never work unless they have more men. But he's also like, Klingons do not play with toys.
Never.
All his Klingons do not lines are hilarious because it's just as Guinan pointed out, you're always speaking about you. You're nothing like a Klingon. Klingons do all kinds of shit.
He just pretends that he is all Klingon.
Yeah, exactly. Worf is hilarious. Worf. One of the funniest parts is I hope we get a Worf show after season 3 of Picard. I hope, because he looks gorgeous in those pictures we've seen.
Oh man, they look pretty great.
Yeah, I'm excited. Okay, well, that was fun. So do we? Yeah, my special mentions also very funny characters.
Mm-hmm.
So do we move on to scenes or episodes?
Well, I picked last time. What do you think this time?
Well, let's just keep zooming out. I guess. No episodes, and then we can even mash these lists together a bit. So let's start with episodes and some of our scenes. Maybe some of those episodes, perhaps. What's your? Or maybe I'll start the list this time. How about that? Okay, from my number 5 funniest episodes in Star Trek is Singularity. This is a season 2 episode of Enterprise.
Okay.
This is one of the. It should have got the Naked title because it's their Naked Now, Naked Time episode where everyone's just acting very strange.
Oh, okay.
So it definitely could have been called like Naked Singularity.
That's not the captain.
No.
Okay.
No. That one, yeah, that one's nakedish as well.
That's weird. Yeah.
But yeah, so that's the hilarious one. It's the one where Trip is like obsessing over the captain's chair. What's the most important component on the ship? The warp engine? No, it's the captain.
Oh,
you want the captain uncomfortable in the middle of a battle? He's just obsessing over it. And the captain's obsessing over the speech about his father, and he just like can't write. It's just supposed to be a page, and he just can't write a page, and he ends up writing like 30 pages. And he's like reading it to Trip. Trip's already bored, like a paragraph in, and he's just like, "How much more is there?" He's just like, "Oh, it's only like 30 pages." It's like 30 pages, and Trip starts to tell him what a shitty writer he is. Like, and Hoshi's obsessing over cooking her family recipe because, like Malcolm said, it was too salty. So she just obsesses over it and keeps making it over and over again.
That is a bizarre episode.
And it gets crazy because Phlox is obsessing over how Mayweather isn't showing any signs of any illnesses, so there must be an insidious one. So he wants to do all these invasive tests and things like cut open his skull and everything. It's crazy. That episode is crazy. I love that episode.
Yeah, that's
hilarious. This is like when Malcolm first tells her it's too salty. She just tastes it. She just goes, "Nope, it's fine." She just obsesses about it later. Oh god, that's a great episode.
That's such a weird episode.
It doesn't work on T'Pol, and in the end, after all his obsessing, like he even gets rid of the chair. He's like, "I'm going to build a new one from scratch." He's like, and then in the end, he just like lowers it half an inch or something like that, like a couple of centimeters.
Yeah. All right, so for me, one of the ones that, I mean, honestly, there's a lot that delights me about this episode, from just the sheer insertion into classic footage to all sorts of other stuff with his trials and tribulations. It's got a lot of comedy in there. There's a lot of great physical comedy as well as like scene stuff, and
they are Klingons. They are Klingons.
But yeah, I love that episode. It's just
a great episode.
It's delightful.
How handsome he is. Yeah, Kirk was known as a ladies' man. No, Spock.
I love that. My favorite moment in that episode though has to be Sisko meeting Kirk, when he's just a little fanboy. All of a sudden, when he like hands him the data pad, he's just like, "Oh boy." Oh man, it's great.
My favorite part of that, actually, and he's an underrated funny character too, is Bashir.
Oh, when they get caught in the corner?
No, when he starts to have like an existential crisis about time paradoxes. It's like, because he flirts with that lady and then she leaves. He's just like, "Wait a minute, my grandmother was in Starfleet. I might be predestined to become my own grandfather." Brian's like, "Whatever, man." He's just like, "Yeah, it's funny for you to say. If I don't go meet up with that woman, I may never be born." He's like, "I can't wait."
At some level, it's also him just convincing himself to go attempt to seduce some lady he's met on a time travel.
Yeah, exactly. It's freaking hilarious. And he's like, "I can't wait to see the look on your face when we get back and you find out I've never been born."
Oh, it's such a ridiculous episode, but I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great episode. It was one of my options on my many option list here for sure.
Oh, no.
All right, so I'm glad you mentioned it. All right, my next one. I'm gonna bring in a Lower Decks episode here. I think. Wej Duj.
Wej Duj.
That's which means 3 ships in Klingon. I believe. Klingon ship, the human ship, and the Vulcan ship.
Oh, that's a great episode. That actually may be my favorite episode of Lower Decks so far.
Like the snarky Vulcan in that is a great character.
Well, he sends her off to Starfleet at the end, doesn't he? I think.
Like her friends are like giving her shit for being like kind of less logical than the rest of them. They think she's losing her mind. She just like has a differing opinion. They're like, "Calm down, you're being insane."
Strange. Anomalies, by definition, are strange.
Something about this feels off.
Feels off?
She has lost all control.
They're just like, "You're not very logical." She's just like, "Logic is the beginning of wisdom, not the end." Like she always has a slick freaking back for them. She's a badass, hilarious character. But Wej Duj is hilarious. And I'm pretty sure that's the one with the Pac-Leds are in that as well. And it's just like, red alarm. Red alarm.
Red alarm.
Pac-Led planet. Okay. Anyway. Wej Duj. That's a hilarious episode.
That's a good one.
Check out Cousin Dave's Star Trek Radio Theater where we reenact Wej Duj over there.
Oh, nice.
So I had some sort of... I was the alarm. I think I had another role in that as well, but I remember I was the alarm.
Best damn role I've ever had.
Red alarm. That was my trademark red alarm. You're hearing here, people.
Oh man. Well, in fact, my next stop on the list is also Lower Decks episode.
Oh, there you go.
Which had some of the grossest dietary habits that I've seen in Star Trek in it. Mugato Gumato. And also, how many...
You mean gumat? You know, it can also be said gumatos.
I love the number of names they have for Mugatos. It's so great.
Gumatos.
Yeah.
Mugatos.
Those beautiful, nerdy men are winning with math and reasoning.
What was the Australian guy's name again? He was hilarious.
Oh, I forget. He was great, though.
But he was so confident. He's like, "No, I've been studying them. I know all. Look, listen to this call I can do." And it just gets mangled.
It just gets eaten.
Oh, my God.
Oh, that was a great episode. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all. Actually, the whole second season of that was very, very solid.
Oh, yeah, because he's like, "I've got 3 books on Mugatos."
Oh, yeah.
But it's just that he owned 3 books of Mugatos and hadn't even read them. What we come to realize.
Oh man,
that's a great one. All right, so where are we at now? Number 4, number 3? No, number 3 for me. All right, I'm gonna say Pride of Chaotica.
Oh, that's a crazy episode.
That is a crazy episode.
First appearance, really.
Voyager. I think it's the funniest episode of Voyager. Because all the characters are getting some funny stuff to work with there. Janeway's hilarious as the Spider Queen Arachnia.
Oh, yeah.
Because she's just like so disgusted by Chaotica. And he's like flirting with her constantly. And
oh, man.
She's very funny. And the Doctor's funny in it as President of Earth. And
oh, yeah.
Tom and Harry are really good in that one.
Like aliens.
Yeah. I believe Seven's in that one as well.
Yeah.
Is that the one where she starts it off where she comes in and just like the robot's like, "I'm going to attack you," and she just like tears out its guts and it's just like, "I'm done with this game now." But yeah, Pride of Chaotica. It's black and white too, which was fun.
Yeah.
And the concept of it was a really good episode actually too, with the photon beings, and they're just like, we're like,
oh, it's one of the
biological life forms, and they're just like, all life forms are photonic.
Yeah, right? I do like it was one of their better holodeck episodes as well. That's for sure.
Oh, you know what we didn't mention when you
that?
mentioned Trials and Tribulations, which I think is actually the funniest scene in Wild Trip.
What's that?
Sorry, Julian. Julian gets number 2. The Time Cops, man.
Oh gosh, that's right.
They're the best.
Great scene. I forgot
So
about.
you're not saying this is a time paradox? No, not at all. Good. We hate those two. And just like he's trying to explain what day they went back to. He's just like, oh, we went back to like, Stardate, blah 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 blah. They're just like, a Tuesday. It was like hundreds of years in the past, and yet they know it's a Tuesday. Like, these guys are so entrenched in time. They had great chemistry and could wit. I like.
Oh yeah, man, that movie worked. Yeah.
Is this to you or to me? Oh, it's to you now, right?
It's to me. Yeah.
Yeah.
So mine is a Deep Space Nine episode. One of the funniest Deep Space Nine episodes going. Little Green Men.
I was about to ask you what Ferengi episode it is.
I have a weak spot for funny Ferengi, and that is one of the funniest.
Prediction: the rest of Dave's picks are Ferengi episodes. Just a prediction. I could be wrong.
Well, you will be right 50% of the time at least. Yeah, Little Green Man, I think speaks for itself. It's just such a great episode.
It's
sends up the Cold War, sends up humans, sends up Ferengi. It's great.
We'd rather deal with you Australians.
Right? And like honestly, the whole thing is basically a joke about Roswell in 1947, right? Like the whole thing is wrapped up in that whole thing that even gives
and just
birth and
Cold War hysteria too.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Well, we could go deal with the Russians. Whoa, settle down now, Ferengi. We're all friends here. So he's being all hard with them. All you gotta do is say Russians. He's like, whoa.
Funny how nothing changes.
This is a comedy episode. We're looking for the funny.
Oh, what's your next one?
Oh god, this one's a tough one to break them down. I have a lot of ones to choose from here. I'll have to do special mentions at the end. I'm going to say "Take Me Out to the Hall of Sweet."
Oh, the baseball episode.
I love that episode, and I think it's in one of my scenes. I having it listed down here is just Sisko explaining his rivalry with. I can't remember the Vulcan captain's name.
Oh, what a jerk! Yeah.
So, being drunk in the pub.
Oh yeah.
Wrestling match in the several papers he opened with that analogy. It's like, so let me tell you about. I know this paper was about physics, but let me tell you about the physics of this wrestling match I had with this stupid drunk human. Like somehow he managed to get that into like all these different papers, which is hilarious. Proceeded to write 10 papers.
I like Worf's take on baseball. Was destroyed.
Kill him.
Yes.
Find him and kill him. Because he didn't touch the plate. Find him and kill him. That was like death to the opposition.
Yeah, it's a great game.
And to manufacture victory, manufacture triumph.
They honestly should have closed that. They could have closed. Did they actually play that song? Vic Fontaine take on To All the This One's for the Losers. I think they
No, I think that's in a different episode. Yeah, that's the one where like somebody's very depressed.
Oh, okay.
Their love life or something. I think it's war. No, it's like he's playing to Rom, I think. Anyway.
Oh yeah, maybe it's one
another funny character didn't make our list earlier, but
Rom also very, very funny. All right, so for me, number 4, I'm going to give a little nod to Discovery. The one time
we on 4? I thought we were way further than that.
No, for me, the 4th one on my list here is.
You can't be 4. You already said Little Green Men and that Lower Decks episode.
Mugado and Trials and Tribulations. Simon.
Oh, you're counting in reverse.
Oh, I'm just counting backwards because I'm bad at this. So here's 2. I'll say this is 2.
Sure. Okay.
It's not actually the funniest thing I've ever seen, but it was funny from Discovery, and I thought that was worth mentioning.
Mm-hmm.
So it was Rainn Wilson's take on Harry Mudd in Magic to Make the Sanest Man Go Mad. It is just
a very funny
episode. And it's so campy and over the top, and he's just like Dwight Schrute with a phaser let loose on the Enterprise or Discovery. I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed that particular episode quite a lot. All the sort of crazy creative ways he's like doing people in and all that stuff. Yeah, it was a fun twist on a premise, like a time traveling premise, because they've done loops before, but they've never done that kind of looping before.
No, that was a twisted, just a hilarious concept.
Oh yeah, yeah, and certainly again shows the differences in what TV will allow or what kind of storytelling is interesting in a particular moment, right? Because that's not going to happen in any previous series of Star Trek in the same way at all, you know?
Yeah. Gormaganders.
I really like Gormaganders. Yeah, they're pretty awesome.
Everything it was missing was friend of the show, Discovery's own Michael Chan.
That's true. He could have been killed by Harry Mudd. Jeepers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So what is this not my number one already, is it?
Yeah, we're up there.
No, this is my number 2. You're all messed up with the numbers, I think.
Probably.
So I think this is actually my second one.
Okay.
I went first.
We can say that.
Not my second one, but my number 2.
You can have a long list.
Well, no, because, what did I do? Wedge Dudge, Bride of Chaotica, and Take Me Out to the Hollow Suite, and Singularity. Oh, no, this is my number 1.
Ooh.
Okay. Ooh, what am I going to choose here? I am going to say Treachery, Faith, and the Great River.
Oh.
I find that episode hilarious. That's the one where Dog is just trading up constantly.
Oh,
and
yeah.
O'Brien's freaking out because none of it makes any sense to him. And he's stealing things and committing crimes to do all these things. He's like, Dog, if you're going to break the laws, just don't tell me about it. Stop telling me your plan. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I love that episode. There's a lot of hilarious. That's got his Great River speech, which is hilarious too.
That's true.
Because he's just like so proud of it and such a believer when he's explaining it. You don't understand, Chief, but there actually is this great river in the universe that human don't have the capacity to.
Oh, it's great.
Stand, but I love that episode. I'm gonna say that one's my favorite. But special mentions. Family Business, which I talked about earlier.
Oh, sure.
Which I love that one. Crisis Point from Lower Decks.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
which
that
is
was
the one that riffed on all the JJ movies.
Uh-huh.
Little Green Men I had, Trials of Tribulations I had. So you had like 2 or 3 in mind, so that worked out. Anyway, your last. What's yours, number 1?
My last actually will follow structurally on my prior list. And it's called Menage a Troy.
Oh, wow.
I do love that episode, particularly. I mean, I love like awkward Troy, Riker interactions. Those are just great. Luoxana bamboozling the Ferengis is great. But Captain Picard doing idiotic soliloquies at her in an attempt to convince the Ferengi that there was some love triangle occurring here is pretty great. And the internet has done some great work with that clip, inserting into the occasional music video and all sorts of good.
Yeah. No, that's a good pick.
Oh man, that's got a lot of
like again, underrated Picard is hilarious.
Yeah. All right, should we fire through our lines and scenes here?
Yeah.
All right. I'll start. This is just 2 words. Montgomery Scott to Tomar in the original series episode By Any Other Name. It's green.
Green. Which he says again. Oh, no. Well, Data says to him, actually.
That's right. That's actually the second entry on my list.
Is it?
Is green. Yes.
Oh, wow. Well, spoiler alert. I'll do my next 2 then. I'll do my first 2.
It is green.
It is green. Laddie. That is not a drink. He liked the green stuff. It was the other.
He did.
All right, my number 5. Also original series. Fizbin, the game of Fizbin. On what is the episode with the gangsters called again? The Big Goodbye or something like that, right?
Something like that. The Long Goodbye or yes.
Something like that.
Yeah. Oh,
Anyway,
that's
when he's explaining the game Fizbin to them. I love that. So it's good to have those many cards, unless it's a Tuesday. But he's just like, yeah, I can play any game you want, you see? He's like, oh, man. Yeah, Fizbin. It was pretty great.
What's your second one?
Oh, yeah, right. I'm going to say Picard, actually. Well, no, Picard's in the scene, but it's remove the plank. I believe that's retract the plank. Sorry. Riker dropping Crusher into the drink.
That's awesome.
Yep, I love that scene. It always makes me laugh.
Oh man. All right. So my next one is actually from Little Green Men. It's Quark speaking to the U.S. military interrogators. We're harmless. We just want to sell you things. Oh man. Yeah, they got the truth out of him. That's for sure.
Cigarettes? Where do they buy it? In stores.
These people are crazy.
Yeah. All right. My next one. Odo as Curzon.
Okay.
And they're mixed and melded together. It's like, Benjamin!
Oh,
remember that time you took up with that girl? And like, whoa. It's Curzon. You guys remember Curzon, right? Curzon. Over here. Yeah, Curzon is Odo.
Wildly inappropriate.
Pretty funny.
He's pretty great.
So that's that scene right there where he first walks in. I like that scene a lot.
Yeah, that's pretty good. All right, so my next one is from my favorite episode of Lower Decks, Mugato Gumato. It's a great scene. It's when Boimler and Rutherford are running away, but they're trying to figure out what to do. And I wish Mariner was a super soldier, or if only we had special powers. Wait, we do. I mean, maybe not here, but here, our skin, our brains. It's our brains. Brains, right? Brains are inside of our skin. Rutherford is such a delightful idiot.
He is, isn't he?
Brains are inside of our skin.
Oh, right. Okay. All right, my next one. Kern's dinner. When they first meet Kern and they bring him on board, and he's just like, what happened to this bird? It looks like it's been left out in the sun for quite some time. But like it's just replicated and we cook it. He's just like, oh, well, I will try some of your replicated bird meat.
Spreads the caviar on top of it. Keeps
Kern's hilarious.
Kern's great.
Yeah.
All right. My last one I've already said is that great Spock to Kirk joke. Curious how often you humans manage to obtain that which you do not want.
All right. That's good. That's good. My number one, I guess. Because I haven't mentioned it in any of the other things. Worf's, when they mention what do Klingons dream about, Worf?
Oh, yeah.
Take you in the night, bring sweat and have you screaming. I love that scene. And then they walk away, and it's like, I can never tell if he's being serious.
That's good stuff, man.
But I have some special mentions as well. Hutch, Call Me Hutch, we talked about. I think that might be I touched it off my list here because we had already talked about it, but that might be the funniest scene in all. I love that, him and Data trying to one-up each other with the small talk.
Oh, my God.
Oh, well, did you know? I did, but did you know? The motion chip Data is very funny. You know, pretty little life forms.
Oh, yes.
Pretty little life form. Where are you? There's a mention there. Yeah, Cisco's rivalry we talked about. I love that one. With Tuvok and Neelix, I mentioned that. The no, I don't. I love that.
Oh yes, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's. Oh, one special mention, which I probably should have put on my list because it's one of my favorite things from Enterprise. And it's the one where Trip has to go. It's a really great episode, actually. I love the concept. It's the one where they just find that like random repair station.
Mm-hmm.
Wants like a few liters of warp plasma or something like that.
Yeah.
In exchange for all these repairs, and they can't figure out why. But there's sinister things going on, and they figure it out because they've abducted Malcolm and Travis, and he has to distract it. They're like, well, how do we distract the machine so we sneak in? So they're like, I know, just send in Trip. So like, Trip just goes in there complaining about the repair job and stuff. He's like, what kind of guarantee do I have that these Duranium pins aren't going to fly out as soon as we hit warp 2? And he's just like, these things aren't up to Federation specs. He's like, look, I need to talk to, and it keeps responding to him like a computer. He's just like, and he's just getting frustrated. He's like, I need to talk to somebody about these repairs.
Oh my god,
it's very funny.
It is. It's very good.
Yeah, that's my other special
riff on getting stuck in a call queue. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
So
yeah.
Comedy of Star
yeah.
We only talked about a small fraction of the humor in Star Trek. It was actually really hard to shrink these lists down.
And it's sort of a representative sampling that gives some scores, some highlights, some wrestling matches, for how to read these things. But I think it probably means it's time to turn to our review
of you can't see this because only I can see Dave, but it's the future of is female.
Yeah.
Well, first initial impressions, I think it would have made a pretty sweet idea for an episode.
Oh my gosh, it would have made a great episode.
The broad plot just being
Mm-hmm.
Moogie smuggling females off of Ferenginar and into the Gale Quadrant. So this is like
a very simple premise.
The reform of Ferenginar.
Yeah, I'm going to guess
with Zach.
This is somewhere between season 4 and season 6. I'm going to guess.
Or earlier,
because Ishka doesn't. When does Ishka meet Zach? Like, when do they actually get together? I think it's somewhere season 3 or 4, isn't it?
Family Business.
Okay.
5? Yeah, 5.
Well, maybe. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's somewhere. I mean,
before then.
Yeah, it looks like it's before then, or only slightly thereafter. It wouldn't be very far.
Yeah.
But yeah, it calls back to a couple of those things. I love the escape tunnel inside the back of the closet, because like the whole use of closet imagery as something that on Earth, particularly in the time when DS9 was on, in the closet or out of the closet is still pretty relevant term today, had a very determinative meaning, and that Brunt keeps showing up in the closet, or that the escape for females on Ferenginar is through the back of the closet, almost like some sort of like weird liminal Narnia suggestion as well. I really liked the use of that in this issue as well.
Like every good Ferengi tale, Brunt does show up.
Yeah,
he is hilarious for the moment he's there. Like Ishka's just trying to talk to Quark, of course, and Ishka's trying to talk to Brunt. He's just like, can you please stop talking to me? It like stresses me out. You're a female.
Can you control her, Quark? He's like, if
yeah,
could.
yeah. Can you control her, Quark? No.
Yeah, even Quark's change of heart, I thought was very, very well scripted.
Yeah,
and it felt very Quark. He's like, oh, all right, I'll make a lot of money doing it. Fine.
Smuggling's pretty good too because it's like the Sluggo Cola guy.
Oh yeah.
Like his daughter.
Against.
Yeah, the heiress to the Sluggo fortune.
Yeah, and
that's the only reason he went along with it. It just had some random Ferengi lady. He probably wouldn't have had that change of heart.
Well, and it refers back to beautifully. It refers back to Pell as well.
Yeah. Don't they mention Pell?
Yeah. Quark gets all mad and yells her name at one point. It's like, oh, I knew the moment I saw her that like she was going to be the first piece of trouble in some sense, because Quark's really wrestling with his own sense, as he does many times in the series, of what it is to be Ferengi, because Quark is a very, very, very orthodox, dogmatically orthodox Ferengi, whereas Rom is pretty freewheeling and doesn't really care about those kinds of things. And Ishka is a total revolutionary. And where Quark clearly seems to have taken more after his father, at least in terms of how he wants to act.
Yeah, maybe not as bad a businessman. Quark's not.
Yeah. Quark's got better lobes than his dad's.
Got his mother's lobes.
Yeah.
Rom, on the other hand, is maybe more like his father in that respect.
He's got his dad's lobes for business, but he's got his mom's heart, right? Like, it's very...
He's a sweet boy.
Yeah, and I it's just, it's a great story. There's a great moment in it where Quark makes a joke about why they can't just beam up to their shuttlecraft. He's like, do you know how expensive it is to run a matter energy transmitter or transformer? He's like,
yeah, we don't have that.
For years.
Yeah, exactly.
And again, back to the economics of it, the Federation is absolutely profligate.
It was a well-written Ferengi story. It definitely came from a writer who knew Ferengi.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely, yeah.
He may even have spent as long on Ferengi as you did. You never know.
Well, 2 semesters.
2 semesters. That's a reasonably long time. I hear the Ferengi year is quite long.
And the semester's expensive.
2
strips of Latin just to get in the door each morning.
Good issue. It's just a single one-shot thing.
You wouldn't want to get an education for free. How good could that be?
It's more expensive all the time. Dang inflation. Yeah. So I think this kind of brings us down toward the...
but as we always do with our reviews, so headcanon or not headcanon?
Oh, I think it's totally there. I would happily slot that into the middle of the series.
Me too.
Yeah.
I think it would have added to that, like the female struggle on Ferengi. We only got snippets of that.
I think that whole thing would have been really interesting to see. Even some of the buildings they go into, seeing some of those worked out a little more, a larger, more prosperous house, what that looks like on Ferenginar. That would have been very interesting. Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. Totally in my head canon. Yeah.
I guess that brings us to what you were about to say.
Yeah, down toward the close of our set here. We're going to have to wind up the jokes and take the clowns off stage. But
join us for our season finale, and hopefully not too long of a time.
No joke. End transmission.
I've been dreaming of so far, even at warp speed. Oh, there's a land that I've been dreaming of.
Is that Dreamland? You just put new lyrics to Dreamland?
No, it's Bajor. I miss Bajor, man.
I miss Bajor too.
This has been a long tour, and we still haven't made it to Galorndon Core.
I know. And now we got a plasma regulator that's hanky.
We've done 26 dates, 11 shows.
Not bad.
Not bad at all. You want to play Bajor with me?
Yeah, all right. Let me
I miss Bajor.
Check the chords down. All right.
Or Dreamland, as you may want to call it.
Well, it's been a few hundred years. We could probably take a new version.
Yeah, exactly.
Reboot.
Exactly. All right. There's a land I've been dreaming of so far, even at warp speed. There's a land that I've been dreaming of so far, even at warp speed. To be with you on Bajor is a celestial temple to me. To be with you down on Bajor spring wine in dark core and gaze deeply into an old swimming pools under waterfalls. When the night would close, we will stop and we'll live together on that bay shore when the future is one. We'll live together on that bay shore when the future is one. 26 hours of peace each day and every week. We look to the prophets in the sky and we'll see them when we die. Holy is that Galorndon core?
That's too. Oh no!
I thought you laid in a course.
No, I'm gonna try and lock in the plasma regulator. Just a second.
Oh no! It's getting real close,
no.
man.
Oh.
Oh no!
Okay.
No!
Okay. Structural integrity is failing.